In the vibrant heart of a small African village named Umwoma, lived a young, beautiful girl named Naomi. Naomi's family was poor, but they were known for their warmth, kindness, and unity. Her father, Chike, was a humble farmer, and her mother, Obidia, was a diligent seamstress. They worked tirelessly to provide for Naomi and her 4 younger siblings. Naomi, a bright and lively girl, had dreams that soared beyond the boundaries of her village. She loved to dance, sing, and tell stories, captivating everyone with her performances. Her family and friends were her biggest supporters, always encouraging her to pursue her passions. On a day, while helping her mother in the village market, Naomi saw a smartphone for the first time. It was a second-hand device, but to her, it was a window to a world she had never imagined. Intrigued, she saved every penny she could from the money her father gave her for her upkeep until she could finally afford it. With the phone in hand, Naomi discovered TikTok. The app fascinated her, offering a platform to showcase her talents to a broader audience. She began creating videos, blending traditional dances with modern trends, and soon, her charm and creativity caught the attention of many. Naomi's TikTok videos started to gain popularity, attracting a large following. Her infectious energy and unique blend of traditional and modern dances made her a sensation. People from all over the country began to recognize her talent, and her follower count soared into the millions. The attention brought new opportunities. Brands approached her for endorsements, offering substantial sums of money. Naomi's life transformed almost overnight. She was no longer the village girl from Umwoma, she had become a social media star. Invitations to exclusive parties and events in the city began to pour in, and she soon found herself mingling with celebrities and influencers. Her family watched in awe as Naomi's fame grew. They were proud of her achievements but also worried about the changes they saw in her. Naomi had always been humble and kind, but the newfound attention seemed to be affecting her. She started to distance herself from her roots, spending less time with her family and more time in the city. Despite their concerns, Chike and Obadiah supported Naomi's dreams. They believed in her talent and hoped she would remember the values they had instilled in her. Naomi, however, was caught up in the whirlwind of fame and success. She relished the admiration and attention, enjoying the luxuries that came with her new lifestyle. As Naomi's fame continued to rise, she made the decision to move to the city permanently. The bright lights and endless opportunities were too enticing to resist. She assured her family that she would visit often and stay connected, but deep down, they feared losing her to the glamorous world she was entering. Naomi's move to the city marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life. She embraced the fast-paced, luxurious lifestyle, leaving behind the simple, nurturing environment of Umwoma. Unknown to her, this decision would set her on a path filled with challenges and hard lessons about the true meaning of success and happiness. Naomi's life in the city was a stark contrast to her humble beginnings in Umwoma. She moved into a stylish apartment in a bustling neighborhood, surrounded by the glamour and glitz she had always dreamed of. The city was a playground for her newfound fame, offering endless opportunities to shine. Her days were filled with brand meetings, photo shoots, and parties. Naomi's social media presence grew even stronger as she collaborated with other influencers and celebrities. She loved the attention and the constant buzz around her. However, the more she immersed herself in the city's lifestyle, the more distant she became from her family and her roots. Chike and Obadiah tried to keep in touch with their daughter. They called and sent messages, eager to hear about her new life. But Naomi's responses became less frequent. She was too busy, she said, juggling her career and the demands of her growing popularity. Her siblings missed her dearly, often reminiscing about the days when Naomi would entertain them with her stories and dances. In the city, Naomi surrounds herself with friends who admired her for her fame and fortune. They enjoyed the lavish parties and the glamorous lifestyle, but few truly knew Naomi or cared about her well-being. The attention she received was intoxicating, but it also came with pressures and expectations that weighed heavily on her. Naomi's arrogance began to surface. She started seeing herself as superior to those around her, especially her old friends and family from Umwoma. Her once kind and humble nature was overshadowed by a sense of entitlement. She looked down on the simple life she had left behind, convinced that she had outgrown it despite the warnings from a few genuine friends. Naomi continued on her path, blinded by the allure of fame and success. She believed that she had achieved everything on her own and that she owed nothing to anyone, not even her family. This arrogance would soon set the stage for her downfall, as the very foundation of her success began to crumble beneath her. As Naomi's fame reached new heights, her relationship with her family deteriorated. The once close-knit bond they shared was replaced by a growing distance and a sense of estrangement. Chike and Obadiah, heartbroken by their daughter's absence, made several attempts to reach out to her. Obadiah, after many failed attempts to reach Naomi, decided to visit her daughter in the city. She hoped that seeing her in person might rekindle their bond and remind Naomi of her roots. When Obadiah arrived at Naomi's apartment, the gateman stopped her at the gate. She explained who she was and asked to see her daughter, but to her shock and heartbreak, Naomi had given strict instructions not to allow anyone, including her parent, in without prior notice. The gateman, following these orders, denied Obadiah entry, leaving her standing outside with a heavy heart and tears streaming down her face. Chike's health began to decline, and he longed to see Naomi. Despite his illness, he remained hopeful that his daughter would come back to visit. Obadiah, too, worried about Naomi, sensing that her daughter was losing herself in the glitz and glamour of the city. They prayed for her every night, hoping she would remember the values they had taught her. Amidst her busy schedule, Naomi received a call from her mother, informing her of Chike's deteriorating health. Naomi dismissed it, convinced that it was an exaggeration. She promised to visit soon but never followed through. Her arrogance and sense of superiority had blinded her to the reality of her father's condition and the pain she was causing her family. Naomi's behavior grew increasingly erratic. She surrounded herself with people who fueled her ego, reinforcing her belief that she was above everyone else. She began to talk down to those around her, including older and more experienced individuals. Her disrespectful attitude alienated many, but Naomi was too caught up in her self-importance to care. The estrangement between Naomi and her family deepened, creating a void that no amount of fame or fortune could fill. Naomi's journey of self-discovery was far from over, and the lessons she had yet to learn would come at a great cost. The proud tic-tacer was on a path that would lead her to confront the very essence of who she was and what truly mattered in life. On a fateful night, Naomi attended an extravagant party hosted by one of the most influential figures in the social media world. The event was a spectacle of opulence, filled with celebrities, influencers, and the elite of the city. Naomi, dressed in a designer gown, basked in the attention and admiration she received. Unknown to her, one of her so-called friends, envious of her success, had devised a sinister plan. This individual had always harbored jealousy towards Naomi, resentful of her meteoric rise to fame. They saw this party as an opportunity to bring her down. As the night progressed, Naomi's drink was spiked with a potent drug. Unaware of what was happening, she began to lose control. Her actions grew erratic, and she made a series of poor decisions that were captured on camera by several attendees. The footage showed Naomi in a compromising and unflattering light, far removed from the polished image she had carefully curated. The next morning, Naomi woke up with a splitting headache and vague memories of the previous night's events. Her phone was flooded with notifications, but the messages were not of admiration. They were filled with anger, disappointment, and betrayal. The video of her scandalous behavior had gone viral, spreading like wildfire across social media. Naomi's world came crashing down. Brands withdrew their sponsorships, citing the scandal as a reason for severing ties. Her followers, who once idolized her, turned against her, expressing their disapproval and disappointment. The glamorous life she had built began to disintegrate, and Naomi found herself at the center of a social media storm. Desperate to salvage her reputation, Naomi tried to explain herself, but the damage was done. The once adored TikToker became a pariah, shunned by the very community that had once celebrated her. The scandal marked the turning point in Naomi's life, forcing her to confront the consequences of her actions and the fragility of her fame. In the days following the scandal, Naomi's life became a chaotic whirlwind of criticism and isolation. The media frenzy showed no signs of abating, and Naomi found herself under relentless scrutiny. Friends and acquaintances distanced themselves, eager to avoid being associated with her tarnished reputation. Naomi's finances took a severe hit as endorsement deals fell through and her income dwindled. She had become accustomed to a life of luxury, but now she struggled to maintain her lifestyle. The bills piled up, and the glamorous facade she had built cracked, losing everything she had. In her darkest moments, Naomi found herself reflecting on her journey. The fame and fortune that had once seemed so alluring now felt hollow and meaningless. She realized that in her pursuit of success, she had lost touch with the very essence of who she was. The values of humility, respect, and family that her parents had instilled in her seemed like distant memories. Desperate for support, Naomi reached out to a friend who had stayed by her side. She advised her to seek help and to reconnect with her roots. Naomi resisted at first, too proud to admit her mistakes and too ashamed to face her family. But as the reality of her situation sank in, she knew that she had no choice. On an evening as she sat alone, Naomi gathered the courage to call her mother. The conversation was filled with tears and regret as Naomi confessed her mistakes and asked for forgiveness. Obadiah's voice, filled with a mix of sadness and love, comforted Naomi. She encouraged her daughter to come home. The journey back to Umwoma was not an easy one. Naomi was filled with anxiety and fear, uncertain of how she would be received. She had hurt her family deeply, and the prospect of facing them was daunting. Yet, deep down, she knew that this was a necessary step towards healing and redemption. When Naomi arrived back in Umwoma, the village seemed eerily quiet. She could feel the weight of her mistakes pressing down on her as she walked through the familiar paths that led to her family home. The memories of her childhood were overshadowed by a sense of foreboding. As she approached the front door, she was met by her mother, Obadiah, who looked older and wearier than she remembered. Naomi's heart sank as she saw the pain in her mother's eyes. "Where is Papa?" Naomi asked, her voice trembling. The silence that followed felt like an eternity. Obadiah's eyes filled with tears as she took Naomi's hands in hers. "Your father, Chike, he's gone, Naomi," she said softly, her voice breaking. "He passed away after a long illness. We tried to reach you, but..." Obadiah's words trailed off, the unspoken hurt lingering in the air. Naomi's legs gave way beneath her as she collapsed to the ground, her sobs echoing through the quiet village. She clutched her mother's hands, her tears flowing uncontrollably. "No, no, it can't be true," she cried. "I should have been here. I should have been with him." The guilt and regret she felt were overwhelming, crushing her under their weight. Naomi's cries drew the attention of the villagers, who watched with a mix of sympathy and sorrow. Desperate to be close to her father, Naomi stumbled to her feet and made her way to Chike's grave. She fell to her knees before the simple, unadorned marker, her body racked with sobs. "Papa, I'm so sorry," she wept, her voice raw with anguish. "Please forgive me. I should have been here. I should have listened." Naomi's tears soaked the earth as she poured out her heart, begging for her father's forgiveness and feeling the profound loss of the man who had always been her guiding light. Naomi's return was a humbling experience. She recounted her journey to her family, laying bare the highs and lows, the triumphs and the mistakes. She spoke of the emptiness of her fame and the lessons she had learned. Chike's absence was a glaring reminder of the time she had lost and the regret she carried. Obadiah, ever the pillar of strength, reminded Naomi that the values she had been taught were not just for times of prosperity but for times of adversity as well. She encouraged Naomi to seek forgiveness from her siblings and the villagers to rebuild the bonds she had broken. Naomi spent the following days reconnecting with her family and friends. She helped her mother with the sewing business, worked on the farm with her siblings, and participated in village activities. The once proud tic-taker was slowly rediscovering the joy of a simple, meaningful life. As the days turned into weeks, Naomi's sincerity began to win over the hearts of those she had hurt. Her siblings started to see the sister they had adored, and the villagers saw a changed woman. Naomi's humility and willingness to make amends spoke louder than any apology. Despite the progress she was making, Naomi still struggled with the guilt of not being there for her father during his illness. She visited Chike's grave often, finding a measure of peace in talking to him and seeking his forgiveness. These visits became a source of strength for Naomi, grounding her in the love and values her father had instilled in her. As months passed, Naomi's transformation became evident. The arrogance and entitlement that had once defined her were replaced by humility and gratitude. She found joy in the simple pleasures of village life and the warmth of her family's love.